Well, Phoenix Rising stays winning things, sort of. The USL Championship stays losing things, kind of. Let's talk about more tonight. Well. Happy Wednesday, everyone here on the PHNX Rising podcast. Appreciate everyone joining us here. It is, it's that off-season time as we're waiting for things to happen. And oh boy, it's a lot of the latter. But we appreciate y'all joining here. Got a lot cooking up. I am Max Simpson, and I'm joined by not Owen Evans. That guy's on
Mr.
vacation. Mr.
That's his name
Vacation's
now,
not
isn't
really that dedicated to the pod, to the beat. But it's okay. I'm in here in the lab with Mr. Rees Goodall. He's grinding away. Mr. Rees, how we doing, buddy?
Well, after this weekend of soccer and the Premier League results, I don't think either of us are doing pretty well.
Yeah, no, our teams. We're cooked. We are absolutely cooked, but that's okay. We are we're moving past it. We got bigger things to talk about, like Phoenix Rising and everything going on within the USL Championship. Make sure to leave a like button on your way in here. We got Mr. Kyle Cooper behind the Mac, making sure everything's running smoothly. More importantly, keeping us on track. Appreciate y'all. Got the Rickety Bridge. Sup, everyone. Sup to you. Reese, we do have a bit of good news, right? From the Phoenix Rising perspective. Had a nice little vote of confidence, a little vote of honors, a little congratulations is in order because, it's fair to say, right? Phoenix Rising season didn't quite go how people wanted it to say the least. But, for all the talent that this team has, for all of the different pieces that have been coming throughout, this season and last season, interestingly enough, Phoenix Rising had one player that earned all league honors for this 2024 season. If I were to tell you at the beginning of the year, that man would be Pape Mar Boye, some, maybe many, might be a little surprised, but that is the guy. He took home 2024 USL Championship All-League Second Team honors and is a finalist for the league's Young Player of the Year award. He's a guy who has stood out off the pitch, really came in, was a leader and a backline that had a lot of pedigree, had big expectations, especially coming out of last season. And, he's a guy who, when you got to the end of it, not only was he undroppable, he was one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, when we saw him come in, there was a lot of intrigue from there. He's coming in from Clemson, his first professional season. That Clemson team won the national championship last season. So a lot of intrigue, how's he going to fit into the side that, Fuenmayor and John Stenberg at the time kind of seemed nailed on to the starting 11. And obviously their seasons didn't quite go to plan for both of them. They had dealt with injuries at the start of the year, and Stenberg obviously just never made a full recovery. But Pape Mar Boye, he, in that first game against Birmingham, or in those first opening games, he really impressed me. Just the raw potential that he showcased. It was just so physically good that it showed it in the air. He was dominant in the air, winning so many aerial duels over the course of this season. And it's really just the growth of him as a player this season, just from that first game to this last one against New Mexico, was something to see.
You're not wrong. Listen, I think going off what you mentioned is, I think that was always the thing that, he was tapped with when coming in here. It was a lot of that untapped potential, right? Knowing that he was 19 when, 19 when he signed with the club, turned 20. He turned 20 when he signed with the club, just right before the announcement. So he turned 20 at the end of the year, was signed a week or so later. So this guy is, just out of his teenage years, helped to lead Clemson, to an NCAA championship. And he was, people may not remember, he was on pace to go into MLS, right? He was in line to be a top pick within the MLS's super draft, but he chose to kind of go this route, kind of go more the professional career, hit the ground running. And I think it's something where you see the physicality, you see the height, you see the pedigree. There was a lot there, but I think it was all about, can you put it together? Can you calm the nerves? And can you actually deliver more well-rounded performance? I think when, as kind of advertised, he came in, had that makeup speed, really kind of helped to erase some of his more maybe tactical shortcomings in terms of passings and other things they just didn't have there. But really, down the stretch, he became one of the most improved players throughout the season and really nicely tactically rounded, right? I mean, you recall that goal against, was it El Paso at home? Yeah. You just see the passing was so much better. And I think just towards the end of the season, for a guy who, again, not even of legal drinking age here in the States, he exuded a ton of calmness under pressure during a season where there was a lot of chaos, to say the least.
Yeah, and you pointed to it there, is that he could have gone to MLS. He could have signed a Generation Adidas contract, putting him into the MLS Super Draft, but he opted not to and come to Phoenix Rising. And I think his quality, I mean, he's just way above this level by far. And, we don't know the contract situation, but if he is back next season, I think you more than take that. And I think you'd be shocked too. And you also said the passing, those first couple of games, it was a bit shaky, could tell bit of nerves, but also it's just not the confidence there in his passes and his deep, longer passes. But just as the season grew, it got better and better and better, and it just helped Rising build forward.
Yeah, 100%. I think we had actually, Kyle, if you scroll up just a little bit, we have one of our first chats. Yeah, from Going Man Pad Ride, as you're kind of touching on, does Pape return? Don't remember hearing being on a multi-year deal. I mean, I think that's it. It's regardless of the contract situation, I think we have seen from rising players, really even going back to last season, who you do really well at this level, and especially a guy knowing his age, knowing where his ambitions lie ahead. I think regardless of that, listen, even if for whatever reason he is back next season, I just don't think this is one where it's necessarily for the long term. We've been wrong. You can see things play out before, but we kind of talk about it, right? You see what is ahead of things, and I think it's exciting, right? You definitely want to be able to grow players and showcase that, yes, you want to retain them for as long as you can, but also that you're able to get players in, become a place where you can foster their talents, grow them up, and then just have them go on. To see Anthony's comment in the chat, Pape is a stud. As much as I've loved him to return, I hope he does. He does have a bright future. I mean, that's it. That's exactly it. This guy is really, the future is really bright for this guy. And I mean, listen, you got some stats to back that up, I reckon.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the stats, if defender stats are fluky in soccer,
they are.
Stats in soccer as a whole are very fluky.
Sure.
And to be honest, they don't really back up how good Pape Mar Boye's been this season. But I actually forgot to pull the one I wanted about aerial duels, but because his aerial duel numbers this season at times were ridiculous. It was just, I mean, there were a couple games where he won 6 of 6 and just things like that. His presence in the air, I think it was the Oakland game where he would just where Oakland were trying to force it deep into the final third, playing crosses in, and it felt like every single time Pape Mar Boye was there. Pape Mar Boye was there. Pape Mar Boye was there. Let's see if I can try and let's see if Opta will cooperate on me here. But it's he was just, let's see. There we go. It's just that the aerials, I mean, looking at the stats that I do have, the duels that he won, just all duels in total, 148 of 260, a little over half or 50%. That's 25th. For interceptions is 24th with 33. This is for all defenders, and 124 clearances. Better with 14th place, but still the stats just really aren't. It's the eye test that just shows how good he's been this season.
It is. And even in some of those stats, right? I mean, you have to imagine this is, maybe it's okay. The stats are maybe not the most, you're not seeing top 10s and stuff like that. But the thing is, keep in mind, this is against, first off, all defenders, right? A lot of teams, right? Even if you're playing 3, 4 in the back, there's a lot of guys just in one team that you have to surpass. But also, I think the other thing, that's just it. It's the eye test. I think there was so often where he was able to take up such spaces, and some of the things that maybe, some of those stats where they can be deceiving in places like interceptions, like in clearances. So much of what he did was he just gave this club just such a nice safety valve, such a safety blanket. And I think it's almost kind of like, right, to use the analogy, within football, right? You have a lockdown corner, a guy who maybe you're not even having a lot of the stats because they're just not testing him.
Yeah.
And I think that's just it, right? You see within this league that, guys are going to test him, but a lot of the times you would see teams not play through the middle. You would see teams not really try to play that long ball because it often would just be kind of swallowed up by what he was doing. They would try to go down the wings, playing across and stuff like that. But I think he just gave a ton of cover for this team in a lot of different areas.
Yeah. And looking at the aerial duel stats that I promised I would get to, 92 of 147. That's about 12th in the league, and 62.59% aerial duels won. Which isn't that high. I'm kind of shocked it's not higher than what it was, because, again, the eye test, it felt like every time he went up for a header, he is winning it. And you're right, the teams kind of attacked forward differently, but I think Rising's defense as a whole was really, really good this season. And I think if results had gone better, like say Rising's defensive performance stayed the exact same, but they finished in 3rd or 4th place, I think we would see a couple more guys featured in the all-league teams. But still, this Pape Mar Boye was by far the brightest shining star for this team.
100%. Make sure to leave a like on your way in here, everyone. And then, right, some of the stats even that the club put out, right? Again, this is a 20-year-old. I think that's the biggest thing that underpins all of this. And we have seen so many times throughout this league, and really just the Phoenix Rising, what they've done in the past. This club is not really one to play sometimes some of the younger guys. Granted, you're not necessarily seeing them as a team who they're playing a bunch of older guys, but really somewhere in that mid to late 20s is where a lot of, the guys who stick around within USL who make their mark, whether they're journeyman or whatnot, that's where you see a lot of these guys eating up minutes. As a 20-year-old to come in, make 31 appearances, logging 2,700 minutes, which was the 4th highest total on the squad. And keep in mind, during the start of the season, he wasn't even an out-and-out starter. He was kind of, I wouldn't say rotational, but right, there were some matches where he would start. The next match, he would go to the bench. Like, to rack up that many minutes and really be, stay healthy, be a measure of, just that consistency. It really stands apart that he's leading the team in all the defensive metrics with the clearances, the blocks, interceptions, everything, plus the 2 goals. You just can't say enough about a player like that. Again, the other thing was I don't want to say you're replacing a guy like John Stenberg, but like in the middle, a lot of that fell within your scope. And to go from a guy who, going after what John Stenberg did, where he came in last season, helped to lead this team to a championship, he's named the captain, and then he barely plays due to everything, to then come in and kind of be that guy, it speaks volumes to a guy who's 20 years old. That's the part to me that I think is just that you can talk about your stats, you can talk about the eye test, knowing the context and what he had to do and where he's coming into place. That's so impressive to me at any age, much less a 20-year-old. Yeah,
and you talked about there, he filled the holes that this team had defensively. There were quite a few injuries. Mayor missed time early, as I said, and Stenberg as well. But Mo Traore missed a significant chunk of the time. So he got his opportunity kind of due to some bad luck for Rising, but he filled it. He fulfilled it. And just really delivered great performances down the stretch. And I really am excited. 20-year-old, I can't wait to see what his career becomes.
Yeah, 100%. Again, it's also, this is a young guy in the defense, right? This is not necessarily something where it's midfield or it's forward, and there's no slight to those positions, but right, you are maybe a bit more apt to play some guys where there maybe isn't as much at stake given where they're playing within the pitch, that there's maybe a bit less of a learning curve in certain instances. Like it's just massive given where he's at and everything. Do you want to scroll up a little bit? Kyle did have a comment in there from the Rickety Bridge Nudist Soccer. Might ask some dumb questions. Didn't even know we had a team to begin a diehard. Well, first off, appreciate you coming in diehard, and that is okay. You may ask away. We are here for you for everything you might need. And on the other side of the break, we're gonna be talking about some things we didn't necessarily need to hear from the USL Championship. Some unfortunate news, catching up on some playoff updates and whatnot. That'll be on the other side of the break. Yes. But before that, we, of course, have to talk about our friends at Branded Bills. Branded Bills. This here, it's pretty easy, right? Go to promo code PHNX. You throw in that promo code PHNX. Go to brandedbills.com. Save you 20% off your first order. Okay, right above Rees, got the U of A hat. Right above me, right over there, got the ASU hat. Producer Kyle rocking his hat as he so often does. Here's the other thing too. They have holiday edition hats. Everyone here at Clamoring across PHNX, they keep on messaging me saying we got to get our hands on their Santa hats that they have. They got all different types of hats. They got the fitted hats, the trucker hats, the rope hats, custom hats. Again, some fun little, dare I say, some certain themed hats coming your way that you'll be able to buy soon. But until then, BrandonBills.com. Promo code PHNX. Save 20% off. Your first order is a great time to get a holiday gift. Do it with our friends at Brandon Bills. Helps us out. Our partners will help you out as well. Also, go to our friends at Circle K. Circle K. It's it's not quite as hot as it normally is, but you still want to be able to refresh with not only a Polar Pop, with a Froster. Each of those you can get for 79 cents, any size. And here's the thing. I get it. If you want something a little bit warm, right? You again take advantage of the 79-cent Polar Pop or Froster. They got coffee. They got hot cocoa. They got all the snacks. They have everything you need. You know what's really nice? You know what's around the corner? You need a little stocking stuffer? They got the best stocking stuffers. Circle K snacks, don't sleep on them. They are better than the other brands. I'm not a doctor, but that's Max Simpson fact. There you go. And then they got all the other things, right? You can get Arizona lottery tickets there. You can get little tchotchkes, prizes, everything. It is a great place to stock up for the holidays. Even a little Thanksgiving stuff you need, everything like that. Go to Circle K. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations. Oh, yes. All right. So, Pape Mar Boye, very impressive, doing the thing. It's this league, man.
Yeah.
This league. It's it never fails to tug on the heartstrings and just tell you a little something of everything. By the way, Kyle is motioning to me. We did actually forget the Circle K snack toss. What we got today, Kyle, by the way? This is now the content portion, so we got to get this in here.
We have a nice Wrigley sour worm.
Got a Wrigley sour worm with the Circle K snack. All right, here we go. Let's go. By the way, we may have connected once in this studio. It is no Studio K presented by Circle K. That's where my power comes from. That's why we connect so well. We're gonna try it here. Here we go. Hit me.
Word.
That was just poor. That was just poor. Even Lindsay from PHNX Sons just gave a nice aw. We'll try again. Here we go. Oh, ow! right off the noggin. That's a good header.
Third time's the charm.
Make contact. Third time's the charm. One more time. For those of you who are listening on audio, this is going to make some really good content. Watch it back. Here we go.
Kyle in his stance throws it.
Oh, a little
Max
short. That's
can't
okay.
catch it.
It was a little short. Here we go. We're good. Thank you for commentating, by the way.
Disappointment fills the room.
It's all right. Disappointment does fill the room. Well, speaking of disappointment filling the room, what a great transition.
Yeah.
By the way, Kyle, Anthony calling you out. Terrible toss. I unfortunately do agree there.
Not wrong. Yeah.
Slightly in the chat, got my gas at Circle K today, of course. We love that. Take the snacks as well. Before I chomp into these and give you guys a little ASMR that you did not ask for, we do have to talk about some serious matters from USL Championship. As reported by Tom Bogert from Give Me Sport. Fortunate news, Memphis 901 has transferred their USL Championship franchise rights to Santa Barbara Sky SC. Memphis will not play in 2025. Santa Barbara will instead join USL Championship in 2026.
Yeah.
This is league approved. This is the transfer due to not having a viable stadium solution. Tom Bogert then goes on to quote USL Championship Deputy CEO Justin Papadakis, after evaluating multiple potential stadium options, unfortunately, the path to finding a permanent home for Memphis 901 FC did not materialize. A stadium is the cornerstone of a club's long-term stability and growth. I mean, listen, I think this is something where we have seen on multiple occasions within the past of USL Championship. I mean, right, we're going to call it what it is. There have been a lot of stadium situations that are tentative at best. Mm-hmm. You're even seeing that, even if not every championship is being made in the mold of, say, a loose city, big sparkling stadium, the stadiums of old are getting phased out. And there are ones where, right, playing surfaces are needing to be improved. Things are needing to come along. And that's before you even get into any legalese or any disputes with what's going on within the local cities, being able to have land agreements. Long story short, it's never a fun look, especially from, definitely some rising ties to Memphis. But it's always a random one, right? And definitely one that opportunity for a new club, but just kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, Memphis had plans or multiple plans to try and build a stadium, but the deals with I can't remember if it was the state or Memphis just didn't quite work out. But still, sad to see Memphis go. It's a very kind of weird deal, that the one that was reported, the Memphis transferring their USL Championship rights to Santa Barbara Sky. It's not an unprecedented. I use that very loosely. It's technically happened before, because with 2 times, at least I can think of off the top of my head, when Miami FC joined the league, they acquired the franchise rights of Ottawa Fury, rest in peace. And when Austin Bold folded, rest in peace to them as well.
Yeah.
They tried selling their franchise rights to a group from Fort Worth, Texas, that was going to build a stadium. Didn't quite work out there. Now this Santa Barbara Sky Group, I am very, and I cannot stress this enough, very skeptical about this group. They were supposed to play this year in 2024 in League One. And it didn't. It just fell through. They were supposed to play at one of the college stadiums in that area. Didn't come through. Didn't work out. They pushed it back to this season. Got a new stadium deal. They're playing at, I believe it's Harder Stadium, something like that, at UC Santa Barbara. And they were supposed to start play next season in League One. Now it's going to be 2026 in the championship. And if you look at their social media, from when they announced they were starting in 2022, they were doing typical new club stuff, pushing the club brand. And then it just went like radio silent.
Yeah, nothing.
Silent for ages. And that's never a good sign in USL at all, because how many expansion franchises or clubs, whatever you want to call it, have been announced by this league and just you have never heard another thing? I mean, Chicago, the Roswell Atlanta group, Queensboro. I mean, this worries me a good chunk about what this Santa Barbara group will become. I mean, I'm just looking at their Twitter now. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 tweets this year. Before that, it was a whole year and like 3 months before they tweeted. It's just, they tweeted one time in 2023 and they're supposed to start play the year after. That worries me a lot. But it's I hate to say it, but it's kind of been typical USL at this point, where clubs kind of come and go. We've seen it, feels like every year. San Diego, RGV. I know your favorite club in the world, Reno 1868, is a part of that list, but the list can genuinely, I mean, is long. It is a lengthy list.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, right, the chat, you're got a lot of opinions there, right? Deagle, their pitch was a huge liability. Don't disagree. Evanol, goodbye. Brand redacted field, absolutely. Anthony,
one less baseball stadium. I guess we take that.
One less baseball stadium. Anthony in the chat, referring to Sky FC, the logo is pretty sick. I don't disagree. I do like the colors. At least. I do like the colors. At least. Well, here's the thing, Rees. A lot of your skepticism and like, right? What if I told you this? Peter Moore, their founding owner. Do you know where he used to work at?
I do know where he used to work at.
Where did he used to work at?
He used to be the CEO of Liverpool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It still worries me.
Yeah. Still. Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure. But right, it's definitely an interesting one. I mean, right, I get it, right? It's maybe difficult to drum up interest when there's just a lack of news or action going on, but I don't know. The fact that also you don't play until 2026, I think that's the thing. That to me is the big difference. If this was now going to be something where, okay, Memphis out of the picture, and now this club is going to be playing the next season. Okay, I'm very curious, right? When you have a year plus going on, knowing how often these things sometimes tend to happen. Like it seems to be every offseason, there's at least one club that is either shifting or whether it's shifting down to, a lower level or, folding or something like that. I feel that you never know until this team actually starts playing. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at the planned expansion clubs that USL has. Lexington and Brooklyn next year. Those are likely going to happen unless something catastrophic happens. After that, for 26, there's Sporting Jacksonville, Santa Barbara, Milwaukee and Ozark United, which is Arkansas, and Buffalo. And then after that is Des Moines, New Orleans, and Palm Beach, Florida. And there's rumors of another club planning to join in 27 with an announcement expected. This is from Third Degree Net for Garland, Texas.
Whoa.
I didn't know that was a place, but USL might have a club there. So or probably won't, knowing how these expansion announcements work. It feels like there's so many times where there's expansions announced, and it's just like, what are we doing? Like OKC Energy, like they are rumored to be coming back. Like when they folded, not folded, went on hiatus. Yeah. That was radio silent, and now I don't know. This is just USL at its finest, and I guess you have to love it, but it's hard to sometimes.
Yeah, it is hard. By the way, make sure, do what producer Kyle's saying. Leave a like button. Look at that handsome man on screen. Do what he's saying with the gesture. There we go. Yeah, Rickety Bridge, great question. Why, first off, the wow, and why so many new clubs? I mean, I think that's, people are hungry for, USL Championship. Again, they will make the claim, and it's very true. They are the fastest growing league within North America, right? I mean, if you are, oh boy. I mean, really, we can go with a lot of layers on this, but right, becoming an owner of sports is something has become very attractive to people in recent years. I think, right, when you look at the realm of soccer, I think that one has been incredibly attractive to a lot of people, right? It is a sport that is global.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that is very much growing within America, especially ahead of the World Cup. People see the opportunity domestically and what that can mean on a global scale. And I think, right, when you're looking at an investment, what that takes, right, unless you are a literal billionaire, and I'm talking with multiple billions, you will not be able to scratch the surface of MLS. And even then, right? I mean, the expansion fees are at least $750,000. And that's before if you even need to put a shovel in the dirt and to actually start building a stadium. So MLS is maybe out there. USL Championship is definitely one where, again, it's a growing league. You are able to have a bit bigger of an impact. A lot of these communities, right, where you're hearing these teams that are popping up, by no means are we saying that they're always going to be the only professional team within the area, right? Again, Phoenix, that's a very big example where they are not. In fact, they are, they're pretty much the smallest professional team that's in the area, but they're able to make a bigger impact by and large within their community. And it just provides a lot of different opportunities. So I think that's where you see a lot of them coming in. The question then becomes, why is there so much volatility, and specifically within the USL Championship level? That's what I thought, actually, that with so much of, things were aligning and maybe kind of being straightened out, I actually thought that we'd be getting, I guess more of a clear path and maybe some teams going down into the lower levels. But that's the one where my head is scratching. I feel it's something different every offseason.
I don't think it'll be like the clubs will be like sustained in this league until really after the World Cup. And even then, who knows what happens after that. The success of this World Cup is going to be very interesting on what these lower league clubs have, because you see a lot of them planned 26, 27, 25. If the World Cup's huge success makes soccer massive, I mean, this is obviously perfect world for us too, but then these clubs could grow. But it's very, I mean, I did forget, Jet brought it up in the chat, Omaha's also coming to the championship. They've got a stadium. So it feels like USL is trying to move in a direction where, hey, you got to have a stadium.
You do.
Which is good news, because getting rid of the baseball stadiums has to be biggest priority for this league. Because, I mean, when you look at Memphis, you look at Tulsa, it's embarrassing, to put it lightly, to their field. I mean, New Mexico included in that list too. And, and then you look at some of the other teams in this league who have, like Louisville, like you mentioned, and the bigger stadiums like Colorado Springs. Who else am I? The one New Mexico's planning to build, and like these nicer purpose-built stadiums. If that's the direction this league goes in, I think that it'll be a success. Teams will stay. It'll be the same 24, however many teams year to year. But until then, I think you're going to see a team or two drop every year. And there are rumors still, because going into this offseason, there was a rumor that there's going to be two teams folding at the end of the season. One team's going to be a surprise. One team's going to be a expected. We don't know who either of those two are, bro. I'm assuming just Memphis was the surprise, but still, I mean, you just hate to see it. There's a long way to go for the USL to have a concrete set number of clubs. And I don't know. I mean, Devin brings up promotion and relegation. I mean, that's going to be years in the future, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I've even talked to a couple, off record, a couple, USL team owners and execs where I think a lot of people are in favor of pro relegation, perhaps on the USL level. I mean, that's really the bigger question is if you're looking at this from a total US, and goodness, by the way, we can spend like hours on this topic. This is not just a separate episode. This is like a whole series that you can do. But I mean, right, like in summation, I don't think it'll ever happen on the totality of what the American soccer pyramid is, because MLS will never buy it.
No, I 100% agree.
If it just right, people are talking about, right, why do people want to become owners, right? People in the chat, it's money. If you are paying minimum $750 million before, again, anything else happens, there is no chance you will ever do pro rel with someone who is paying a few million.
Yeah.
Now, could this possibly work? And is there maybe more of a discussion to be had on just a USL level where maybe you have Championship, League One, maybe that's it. And like, I know people have talked about, about like MLS, when MLS Next Pro is happening, everything like that. I don't think you go that far, but you could make an argument if you involve maybe one or two of the top levels of USL. I just don't know A, how far you go, and B, how that gets sorted out and what kind of the differentiator is. Because I think the other thing too is there are so many markets that are coming in, and I think a lot of where USL seems to go is it's a lot of you're wanting to build into these markets where there's a big DMA, where it's a good soccer culture. It's certainly at the younger level. But I think the thing is you're seeing some clubs who have been operating within USL Championship or who are coming in that are in smaller markets. And then there are some within USL League One where those are pretty sizable markets themselves. So it's just kind of weird how they all sorted out. I think it could work. It's just to what you're saying and to Devinel's question, I just don't think this happens anytime soon at all. I mean, this club or this league and this entire USL ecosystem still has so much to sort out just for stability purposes.
I mean, League One's got 8 announced expansion clubs too there. And I think if promotion and relegation ever happens in professional soccer in the United States, it would be like within one league's ecosystem. What I mean, like USL, so USL Championship, USL 1. There won't be to MLS no shot of that. I mean, about what was a year ago, last fall, I think, there was the rumor that USL was going to vote on it and there was going to be another tier above Championship. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the plan is for if promotion and relegation ever happen, because I mean, one of the biggest things people always bring up is, if you get relegated, you'd lose money, which is right, but how can you lose money sustainably? Like, is there like parachute payments like the Premier League has? Like but then again, the parachute payments that the USL would be able to offer really wouldn't be that sizable. So it'd just be like, how can you make it sustainable? And I think it's really at minimum, honestly, like 10, 15, 20.
I don't think that's a stretch. Yeah. Jet kind of talking about, right, of course, all his rumors, right? No additional knowledge on our end, but right, North Carolina FC, San Antonio FC, and Miami, right, saying that the San Antonio FC one rumor was eliminated from Red. I mean, I always go back to, I'm always curious when teams are moving and where everything like that. I think you have seen that it's very difficult for USL teams to compete in markets where there is already MLS. And I think to me, that's the tough one of like, right, North Carolina FC, where Charlotte FC plays, Miami FC, where, of course, Messi,
Well, I thought you played for Miami.
I know, exactly. I was waiting for you to say it. But no, I mean, I think that's maybe a shift that I think that USL has already been going away from, is not kind of doubling up within those markets. But yeah. I
mean, you've seen that Austin fold.
Yep.
Charlotte Independence moved down to League One. And if you look at their games, they get about 22 players, 4 referees, and 2 managers at their games, and that's it. It's very, very empty there. I'm trying to think who else has folded. San Diego, I mean, that's the most obvious one that's folded for MLS.
And sometimes, right, it comes in, sometimes these USL teams, right? They're going into a market. They're in a market, and then MLS club comes in after the fact. I mean, tis what tis. It doesn't always correlate to then a move on, but it's very difficult. I think. Yes, it gives you something a little bit different. Yes, USL is maybe a bit more affordable, and there's some other different things there, but I just think I don't know. It's not to say that there's not an appetite there, but to use certain examples, while it's not necessarily apples to apples, right? Teams that have, call it indoor football, right? And going up against a team that has like NFL or something like that. It's not quite the perfect example, but it's tough to support multiple sometimes.
Yeah. And especially for a sport that isn't that popular compared to NFL, like you mentioned, you're really not going to support. I mean, like for Inter Miami, they signed Messi. That all eyes are on Messi. Not that many eyes are on Alan Gavilanes, no offense to him, but that's just the truth. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of sad to see in a way, or it is sad to see, but it's just the way U.S. soccer is, unfortunately. And I feel like it's a long way from changing, and I don't even know anymore, to be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Well, it's all good points. It's actually kind of nice conversation. We'd get to, and again, this is what the offseason is for, especially after the USL offs are over. They
ended quite early for us.
Well, yes, they did, but in the totality of USL Championship, once those are over, I mean, goodness, we can do full-on episodes of just these, I wouldn't say obscure topics, but ones that we maybe don't really get to dive into, especially without Owen here derailing things. But we do have
Mr. Vacations.
Yes, Mr. Vacations, exactly. Can't wait for that to come back. But we do have some matches to talk about. Ones that unfortunately Phoenix Rising again we're not involved in, but but there were some conference semifinals that occurred. We got a little graphic for you, Mr. Cal, if you would, please, good sir. Again, some score lines from the weekend, right? We got New Mexico. Let me do my best Owen voice. New Mexico 0, Las Vegas Lights 1, Lou City 0, Rhode Island 3, Charleston Battery 2, Tampa Bay Rowdies 1, Colorado Springs Switchbacks 2, Orange County 1.
That's a good impression.
It was pretty good.
I gotta tip my cap there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just try to make it as bland as possible. You're right. Listen, I'm gonna ask the question. I'm gonna get it. It's probably gonna be resounding obvious, and I think the chat's gonna agree. 3, 2, 1. What is the most surprising result?
Definitely Rhode Island.
Yeah, that'd be it.
But I also
that'd be it.
I do want to
honorable mention.
The Vegas playing with 12 men for a minute and a half was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Can't do that.
So, they did for about a minute and 50 seconds. But, that Rhode Island game, I feel like all three of us kind of overlooked Rhode Island, to be honest. Rhode Island went to Louisville earlier in the year and beat them bad, 5-2. And J.J. Williams dropped a incredible performance today. He scored, or not today, in that game against Louisville. 2 goals in that game. That's 1 less than he scored in 13 games with Rising, by the way. So fun numbers for you.
I was looking at that. And I'm like, man, that J.J. Williams trade from Tulsa. I'm like, oh boy, what a time.
It was kind of a train wreck trade. Like Marcus Epps didn't pan out here at all.
It didn't work well either way. And then you see him after the fact. It's like, oh.
Yeah, and Epps was solid with Hartford.
I was like, you're both doing fine.
Well, you just love to see it, don't you? Ugh. But I mean, for Louisville to crash out the way in like that's nothing but disappointing for Louisville there. They I think most people had them penciled in. Hey, they're going to be in the final and they are likely going to win it. And for them to not even make the conference final, this is the first time in club history that they have not made the Eastern Conference final.
That's absolutely insane. And for being tied for being the best regular season team of all time, that is absolutely staggering. And you know what? Honestly, not just because of Rhode Island, we should have known. When in USL Championship, when it's obvious, blinding you in the face, and it should be happening. Of course it doesn't happen. I mean, right, you're even looking at the stats that you pulled. I mean, this wasn't something where, Louisville was just completely outclassing them from a stats perspective and everything like that. Rhode Island was just more clinical, right? XG, relatively similar. Louisville even had a bigger bump.
Rhode Island had a penalty too, so I mean, it's really half of what it should be.
Had a penalty. Shots were about the same. Shots on target were about the same. Possession was about the same. It's just Rhode Island was more clinical, and Louisville, for all of the attack and for what they can do, I mean, listen, they were absolutely swallowed up. I don't know. It's one of those things where in hindsight, sure, you can say, oh, well, there's some holes that you can poke in, but this really was a dominant Louisville team from start to finish throughout the season. It's just, to your point, there was a blueprint, and who provided the blueprint? It was Rhode Island, the same team that knocked him out.
Yeah, I mean, the squad that this Louisville team had this year, their second choice 11 could have gone far into the playoffs. That's just the biggest shock. But also, you said, and we brought up earlier, Rhode Island found the blueprint. Connor Smith has really got that team going in a good direction. The first season in USL Expansion Club. I don't know how they're going to do in this Charleston game. I think Charleston, they're going to be hungry now. I think Charleston's by far the favorite now to win the league. You disagree with that?
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
No.
I think they're going to be looking for not revenge, because they can't get revenge on Rising, but to kind of just get that star over their crest. But it's the way Rhode Island has looked at times this season, because it took a minute to click. In this start of the season, they were drawing so many matches. It felt like, I mean, it was like every game was a 0-0 draw. I mean, similar to how Rising's looked, but and that game ended 3-1, of course. But this Rhode Island team looks really, really good. And for what Connor Smith is building there, they honestly, they're setting the tone now, and them in the future could be fun to watch once they're building a stadium. They're going to become a big club in USL, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, right, you even see it being backed by ownership, and how there's well, we'll not get into the club that they own overseas. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later for my Spurs disappointment. But I mean,
I forgot about that.
I mean, you're right. You know, the ownership group, they have a track record of building up clubs, of promoting, of putting teams in positions to win. I mean, granted, ownership can only do so much. It does come down to the coaching staff. It does come down to the players, but you do have the buy-in and the backup. And I think that is something where, if you are trying to contend within this league, you have to have it. There are so few teams. Maybe Rhode Island was an outside choice, but at least they did have the backing. I don't think you're going to see the same thing from these clubs, where there isn't that infrastructure, where there isn't that kind of resources and that community buy-in. You don't see those types of Cinderella runs happening. Like this one, to your point, we might be looking 2-3 years down the road and say, oh, well, this Rhode Island something, this wasn't just a blip, this was the start of something larger, regardless of how far they go in these playoffs.
I mean, they came out into this league and signed some big names. Jorge Vegas from San Diego, JJ Williams, and Albert Dequa, league MVP last year. They signed some good players. And Frank Nodarce, Noah Fuzon, they have some good players on this team. Who knows what they are next year, but I think they've shown that they're going to invest in this club. And I really, really do think that is going to be the start of something special.
From the start of the season until mid-June, they did not pick up their second win until mid-June. And to see where they are now, it's absolutely wild. I mean, right, there was that match. You know, another one that I'm not going to necessarily say, you know, right, the other number one seed going down. To me, this maybe wasn't as much as a surprise. Definitely a bit of a chaos game. But I mean, you're talking about, right, we just said in the other one, hey, the stats relatively similar and everything like that between the two teams. This one, goodness gracious, I mean, New Mexico, man, what?
Yeah,
what can you say? The writing was on the wall a little bit, and there it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people did not have New Mexico going far, and they got kind of lucky that Rising finished eighth.
Bit of a fraudulent number one.
Yeah. Fraudulent one, and they got an easy matchup in Rising in the first round that they took care of. And to Vegas' credit, that team, they're another one that they have put something together that has been special this season. And I think maybe not the biggest storyline, but the biggest storyline from New Mexico fans of the match is that from the about 90th minute to the 92nd minute, Las Vegas had 11 players on the pitch. They also had a goalkeeper on the field.
There it is.
So
nice.
Now, Max, I know you're no mathematician. You said that multiple times.
You're right.
But what is 11 players plus a goalkeeper? How many players is that? Like how many people?
To help, I think actually I'm not a downgrade in the chat. It's actually gonna help me out with this one. Vegas had 12 players on the pitch for over a minute.
Yeah.
LMAO. That's 12. 11 plus 1 is 12.
Yeah.
It's you can't do that. I believe you're only allowed 11.
You're only allowed 11 players on the field.
Can't count the referee.
I did check
Can't
the
count the
IFAB
referee.
rules. You know,
oh,
and
would be
on
so
our
proud
phone,
of you.
Evans. Yeah.
Yes.
But it was. they only noted, or I don't know if they didn't notice or they just didn't do anything, but the referee there was a foul in New Mexico's attacking third, and the referee blew the whistle and then told one of the players, hey, you're not supposed to be on here. And he's just kind of like, he has his arms in the air.
So
He's kind of
wild.
confused. It is shocking that was not caught sooner, because they made 3 subs at the 90th minute.
Yeah.
3 came on, only 2 came off. It's just it didn't affect the match really. I mean, it burned 2 minutes of clock, but New Mexico really didn't look like doing anything in those 2 minutes, or really the 90 minutes as a whole. But still, very, very funny to see.
Yeah. I mean, right, that covers the 2-1 seeds. I mean, right, you going on, to me, I think this was one of the more, probably in my opinion, the most intriguing matchup within these conference semifinals. Charleston 2, Tampa Bay Rowdies 1. Again, like you said, Charleston, I think they are the clear favorite. Kind of dominant in terms of shots on goal, in terms of possession, especially playing at home. Yeah. They just got something there. I something that I really don't think has left since last season.
Yeah. That Aaron Malloy free kick to win the game in the 83rd minute was, that was insane. What a goal that was. For Tampa Bay, it's really just, it's been such a disappointing season there. I mean, they had their 2 strikers, Cal Jennings and Manuel Arteaga, be named to the All-League Second Team. But those 2 guys, their output in goals was very good. Not knocking them for that, but they were not nearly as clinical as you'd like to see. Their XG numbers were way higher than their goal output, and it's very, very just disappointing that how poorly they played at stretches. I get it was hard for them at the end of the season with the Hurricanes in Tampa Bay, so they had to move games to IMG Academy, but still, it was
nice.
Excuse me, dear. It was very disappointing season, and they had the lead in that game, but they just couldn't take advantage in that one.
Indeed. And it brings us to the last conference semifinals matchup. Colorado Springs 2, Orange County 1. The Danny Stone run, it does end. Right. Tight one. Right. Shots relatively equal. Shots on target equal. Possession pretty much there. Again, I think this is one where, especially as we saw when we went to Colorado Springs, and we just know it's a tough environment to play.
Yeah.
I will say that I think if I'm looking out of the West, Colorado Springs is my pick to go. I think they're going to be, and we'll get into the predictions in a hot second, but I think it shows Colorado Springs, they're a dominant force at home, and it'll be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, that Colorado Springs game, Orange County kind of really didn't come out to play in extra time. They kind of sat back and played for penalties. And if a team does that, I automatically think you don't deserve to win the game at all. And I don't want to say they got karma, but they got what was kind of coming to them with Colorado Springs winning the game. It was a very interesting one. It was a good crowd, but it was because of the weather, there weren't many people there compared to what we see normally from Colorado. But still, Orange County just couldn't quite light the spark that they had towards the end of the season, and the Danny Stone interim era ends, and we'll wait to see what happens there.
There it is. If you're Orange County, I'm assuming you're going to consider him heavily. Do you give him the role? Give him the nod?
I think you have to be honest. I think the form that you were in that tail end of the season to secure a playoff spot, secure that that's where you were. It was excellent. Orange County had a bad year this year. Danny Stone was able to kind of make them look better than what it looked for long stretches of the season.
Yep.
And then the upset against Memphis, that's huge. I think you have to. I mean, he has to be your top candidate. See if he wants it, and then I think you give it to him.
I don't disagree. I think especially you have seen this club in particular, they go through some weird stretches.
Yeah, they do.
They have started incredibly ice cold. They have then gone on to go through a hot stretch. I think you gotta go with a guy who has given you a hot stretch, who has picked up, coaching honors in his interim time with you, and especially just knowing where this club has been, how much volatility they've gone through. I would say back him for a season. I mean, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they do go in a different direction, but I think
Yeah.
I would think it would be hard pressed to A, not consider him heavily, and B, if you don't go with him, I'm really just curious who you bring in, because like what direction you're looking to go with.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I can get why you might not want to look at him fully because of how it went with Rising, but like how other teams wouldn't want to look at him because of how it went with Rising. For your Orange County, he did it for you.
He did it for you.
I think he's the top candidate.
And I think that's exactly it. I think also too, it's like, right, you have seen he came in, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but came in Phoenix Rising, short notice. Definitely, different results, came in, even if it was on relatively short notice, he was able to come in, become that kind of first assistant, in a prolonged period-ish at Orange County, and kind of build into it, grow, learn the system, everything like that, and go from there. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Greg, you can kind of, I guess, say, pretty much same thing last year when he was here during Rising's championship run. But I think to your point, you summed it up well. It worked for them. Give a guy a considerable nod. And that leads us to the conference finals, 2 sets of matches. Boy, these are interesting ones, right? I think for very different reasons, right? You got Charleston Battery, Rhode Island. I mean, listen, people want to talk about the Cinderella run. I do see a world where it's possible Rhode Island goes through, but again, I think just Charleston Battery, they are just the class of not just the East, but what USL Championship has to offer at this point. And then you have a very intriguing matchup. Colorado Springs Switchbacks, Las Vegas Lights. And again, in what people were saying in the chat earlier, I mean, you want to talk about Rhode Island as a kind of underdog redemption story, not redemption, Cinderella from nothing. That's Vegas. That is absolutely Vegas, and how they've turned around. We were, saw a lot of commentary on the Twitter and everyone of like, wow, like look at when they're saying like, oh, we're signing players and we're memeing it. It's like, wait, no, like this is actually what happens when you invest in a club like they did.
Yeah, they started signing players in February. Now, when does the season start, Max?
Yes. Well, preseason's right there.
Yeah. And it has been a very, very chaotic year in a good way for Las Vegas. I think I think they could pull off, maybe not the upset, but the win against Colorado Springs. But it is going to be difficult because, as we mentioned, Widener Field is a difficult place to play. The elevation gets to you, and it's just tough. We saw it when Rising went there. We saw that last week with OC. It is not easy to play. I don't know what the weather's going to be, but it has been nasty there over the last little bit. There's been tons of snow. They had to move last week's game from the Saturday to the Sunday. But I just think Colorado Springs has the squad. They've been so good at times this season. Ronaldo Damas is always he turns it on in the playoffs.
He does.
I mean,
his style's so good for the playoffs.
Exactly. That hat trick against Rising is something that people always point to. And then he lost that game. So, but Loyal's in a box now, so you don't have to worry about that. But I think I'm taking Colorado Springs in that one.
Kyle, let's get those 2 matchups up one more time. Okay, so you got Colorado Springs. You got a score line for that one.
I think any game in this playoffs is going to be 1-0, but I think this one goes to penalties.
3 out of the 4 matches were decided by 1 goal.
I think this one goes at least to extra time.
Okay.
Springs pulls it out.
Yeah, Springs pulls it out.
2-1 at most.
Okay, you got one for the other matchup.
This one I could see Rhode Island pulling an upset. I'm more inclined to lean Charleston, but I do think if there's a team to beat Charleston out of the 3 other teams remaining, it'd be Rhode Island.
I agree.
But I still just think Charleston's just too good at the moment. I'm going 3-2. High scoring for playoffs, I know, but 3-2 Charleston.
Yeah, that's fair. Chad, make sure to chime in as well with your picks. I'll go for the East. I'll go probably honestly just replicate Charleston's last score line against Rad. I'll go 2-1. Okay. I could see this high scoring, but yeah, keep it 2-1. It'll be tight. And then I actually don't think it goes to extra in the West. I actually think that Springs may even win relatively comfortably. I'll go 3-1 with them. Oh, wow. I actually don't even know where the 3 goals are going to come from, but I'll go 3-1.
Thomas hat-trick again?
I guess Thomas hat-trick, sure. Why not? Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, there are so many plot lines to go with no matter who. I mean, again, Rhode Island or Vegas go through, talk about just, wow. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think, honestly, that out of all the different teams, right? You have Charleston Battery going for redemption after losing in the final last year. You have Rhode Island going from startup to this. Vegas with an absolute redemption story. It's funny that out of all of those, Colorado Springs maybe to me is the most is maybe like one of the more underwhelming storylines. And what have they been? Just one of the more consistent teams at home and just battling when they need to throughout the last handful of years. So go figure.
And it's they just haven't had the playoff success yet as a club. I mean, they made the conference finals in 2022, but this is their only other conference. This is their second ever conference finals appearance. They missed the playoffs 4 years in a row in this league. I mean, it's so many storylines, so many good storylines for this conference finals run, and the final's going to be very, very interesting.
It absolutely will be. Yes, Rickety Bridge, overtime equals extra time. Got it. Yep. You are catching on very well. Well, unfortunately, let's talk about a little Prem to round us out.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, you can say, oh no, and I'm actually surprised if Damon's here. I'm sure
we don't need to talk. Ipswich,
he's
Clark,
got something. Yeah. My beloved Spurs.
There were other games there.
Yeah,
besides
not doing
Arsenal, Chelsea, and Ipswich, Tottenham. Let's talk about the other ones. Huh?
That's fair. I mean, listen, this is I guess if you're looking at the Prem purely just by where teams are picking up points, this is actually a much tighter Prem, and this is a rather underperforming Prem than there were 11 games through last season.
I mean,
across all teams, really.
I feel like, this kind of a year for not a Leicester to win the league, but that kind of same story, like some random, like Nottingham Forest and Brighton, they've both started this season.
Nottingham Forest
very,
played
very
no
well.
one, though.
I know, but I mean, Liverpool's top, and they haven't played anyone either. And Devin in the chat. But I think Liverpool's collapse is imminent. Like, I just don't think I'll be shocked, to be honest, if they can sustain this form over the year. I know they've looked really good, but they've looked good against teams that I
wouldn't say it's necessarily a collapse. I think the form that they're on, I just don't know if it's sustainable. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be quite like, okay, how Spurs we were last year and then just fell out. Granted, there's a lot of injuries and everything. I don't think it's maybe quite that level, but I do think that it's going to be a little bit more of a battle.
Yeah.
City is inevitable.
But
they have a lot of
really
injuries.
Yeah,
they got a lot of injuries. Yeah.
Rodri being out looks bad
for
them.
They look horrible
really,
without him.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2 straight losses in the league. Holland just really isn't looking like Erling Haaland. Chelsea, really aren't title contenders just because they're too young. They just really aren't far enough into the project.
I think they're still at least a year or so away from being in the picture more consistently.
Arsenal, we don't really need to talk about them being title contenders because they're not. And that's why I think Forest and Brighton can maybe make a run if they hit hot form. I think so.
It pains me that if we did not blow a 2-0 lead to Brighton, and if we really could have won either a Crystal Palace to give them their first win or an Ipswich to give them their first win, we would be third. So that makes me feel just delightful.
That's fun. Well, international break at least.
And then, we play on the other side. City away.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, it's
that is perfect, man.
Yeah, it's not
hey, at least you can watch.
Do we acknowledge Kevin in the chat? They played Chelsea, Milan, and Leipzig. Okay, we're
bringing up 2 Champions League fixtures. We're talking Premier League.
What are we doing? Keep up.
But I mean, it is international break, so we've got the quarterfinals of Nations League, USA Jamaica. What are your predictions there? First leg's in Jamaica, second leg somewhere in the U.S., probably Columbus, St. Louis.
I mean, you're right. Actually, not far off. I got U.S.
Yeah. Posh ball.
He's
the guy.
It's nice to see what they're going to be back at it.
It's very it's kind of surreal to see he's the manager of the U.S. because it's
kind of weird.
Like, it's weird to see the big club manager like Tuchel at England. Like this will be his first window too. So very, very interesting.
We will see. Kyle, USA winning.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll take USA.
Are you going to be there though?
No.
That's a question.
They're not winning them.
What are we doing? Kyle.
God. Right, Kyle, you're not flying out to Jamaica and St. Louis to make sure USA goes through?
Jamaica would be a great away That'd be amazing.
I will when it's a more important tournament,
It's the CONCACAF Nations League.
Yeah, what more do you want,
This is the pinnacle of
the
the
World Cup coming up.
This is as good as it gets. Poch coaching in Champions League finals and Coupe de France's, but no. I raise you CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinals. There we go. Oh boy. Well, we're kind of at the nonsense hour. I appreciate everyone joining us. I think that'll round us out here. Make sure to leave a like on your way out here and go subscribe to PHNX Sports. Catch up with what we got going on. Again, programming reminder, now that we're in the off season, again, Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is when you can catch us. Make sure to join us in Discord. Become a diehard today. Get access to Discord with what we have going on. Always have fun stuff. And this actually was supposed to be released this week, but we're actually going to blame Mr. Vacations, who did not have the link ready. PHNX Rising Fan Awards. Going to open up the link. Should be next week when Owen is allegedly back. We will very much see about that.
Shame on you, Mr. Vacations.
Shame on you, Mr. Vacations, Mr. Owen Evans. Everyone go at OJ Evans 18 and give him a hard time. Please do that from the bottom of our hearts. Also, give him a hard time on Discord, all that stuff.
Wales losing to Turkey, I heard.
Oh, gosh. Yes, it's going to be the worst away days of his life. But yes, make sure to join us at PHNX__rising on Twitter, double the underscore.
Double the goals Turkey put past Wales.
You darn straight, Rickety Bridge. Thank you for joining us. Happy to answer your questions. Leave a like on your way out here. You can follow me on Twitter at Simpson. Again, you can follow the factual Mr. Vacations at OJ Evans 18. You can follow Rees on Twitter at Rees11 _. You can follow Mr. Kyle Cooper at Coop Sports on there as well. Keep on watching. Shortly, you're going to have our friends over at PHNX Suns jump on for a little pregame action, so stick with us. It is a beautiful game, but it's so much more beautiful when this league just kind of calms down for a hot second. Good night.
We all silly like the mayor.